Everyone say goodbye to the mustache because she'll be ripping in peace soon. I'll miss you. Hey y'all, it's me, the Bus Reaper, and welcome back to Hot or Rat. And today we'll be reviewing episode 6 of RuPaul's Drag Race season 16. Our queens were challenged to create 2 identical looks, one for themselves and one for their very own doll in a combined design and branding challenge, featuring guest judge Law Roach, who's well known for his celebrity styling of Zendaya and Celine Dion. And you'll notice in this week's video, I'm scoring the queens out of 10 hot flames, where I've awarded up to 5 for how well I thought the look and doll the queens created captured their aesthetic and brand, and another possible 5 for the actual design and creation of the garments. And in the order they hit the runway this week, first up we've got Xunami Muse, who's serving Fashion Week edition doll. She's from NYC, she's good at walking from the bank to the bodega, and her inspirational message is, you're never overdressed, everyone else is just underdressed. And as far as branding, this is absolutely a silhouette that we've seen Xunami Muse in. She loves a good pant on the runway, and looks good in them. There's almost something that's a little too casual for me for Fashion Week edition. I expected something a little more avant-garde and visually interesting. Like, it's kind of giving me model on a go-see rather than on the actual runway. But she did at least serve model, so we'll give her that. And as far as the actual garments she created, the pants, again, are great. I think that little flare at the bottom is super cute, but everything waist up is just a little messy to me. It's kind of giving cummerbund around the waist. And the top really is not fitted that well. It's kind of hanging off awkwardly from her body. And that giant tulle bow tied around her neck is fighting for its life against that ponytail that is like dragging on top of it. I just feel like if you're making your brand Fashion Week and going for something super simple, it needs to be done immaculately. And this, to me, was not. So I'm gonna give this overall a. And next up, Mother has arrived. Miss Sapphira Cristàl is giving us Grande Dame Diva Metropolitan Opera Edition doll. Say that 5 times fast. And the vocalized component of her doll advertisement, if you will, caught me off guard immediately because she's speaking in this really deep announcer voice. And I was like, oh, what is she doing? But as I listened, I realized she was doing a kind of parody on the very cliche deep announcer voices. And the way she sold herself and her doll got me excited to make the purchase. She said she was regal, inviting warm, high maintenance, and scary as hell. She's ready with a backhand, and she is singing opera, but the opera code is not included. I loved how much all this made sense for her drag character. She's circling back around on the very first time we saw her on Drag Race singing opera in the talent show and touching on all the things that we know her to be: regal, warm, inviting, but also not afraid to mother and put people in their places. And concerning the gowns she's created for her doll and herself, these are very simple and elegant gowns that I do think make sense for the idea of a metropolitan opera. And to my untrained eye, the construction of this looks really well done. The fit is great, she's bodied, the silhouette is pretty. And I think it was smart to choose a pattern fabric in a sea of everyone else who just did plain blues. To improve this look, I think she could have gone bigger and bolder. When I think of an opera singer, I do often think of somebody with like a giant, very structured waist coming out at the bottom because they're standing there singing and that's the show and they're not necessarily moving or dancing. But overall, this was absolutely hot. And what a gag it was that Miss Sapphira decided to drink her immunity potion this week. I was shook. I mean, clearly, nerves got the best of her here because she wasn't thinking clearly. Like, after she said yes, RuPaul even asked her, are you sure? And she goes, yes. As in, like, you shouldn't be doing this, girl. You're gonna be at least safe. And she said, I'm gonna drink this anyways, but that's her choice. So down the hatch the potion went, and in confessionals, she did later regret the decision. And next up, the 4th state of matter, Miss Plasma, who is giving us Passenger on the Pacific Edition doll. She says she's rich, beautiful, sickening, and nauseous. She's an old school glamour hag, and she's great at moving her mouth, standing still, and theft. Those were just some of the things that Plasma said in the vocal part of her presentation. She said a lot. Concerning the overall brand here, I do very much get the 50s old Hollywood glamour, Lucille Ball, Joan Crawford type of thing she's going here for with that headscarf. And visually, I would say this is who we know Plasma to be. The brand is right on the nose. But the jokes were, as Ru critiques, I think just a little too heavy-handed and forced. Like, she's sitting there writing, I think, trying to make every single line and the thing that she's saying into a joke, another joke, another joke. Plus, the actual execution of this look just wasn't great. The dress itself is sort of like a long blue tank top with no shape, and she is struggling with this scarf that is wrapped around her shoulders and her neck, and it's like falling down from her head constantly, which could have been a feature and not a bug if she had of just let it sit there. And the scarf, being that crazy shiny material that it is with all of those jewels along the hem of it, made the malfunction just even more obvious. I will say though, the outfit does strangely work a lot better on the doll, but on this runway it's a rod. And next up, get ready for takeoff, we have Plain Jane, who is giving us the aquatic edition of her doll, which she says is funky, spunky, and a little skunky. And has a very self-aware moment where she asks, is she a magical mermaid or a retired ice skating instructor? Plus mentions her stinky burger finger, which gets a laugh out of Ru. And I'll say she definitely had the funniest vocal presentation of all the queens tonight, where really her acting and comedy chops got to shine quite a bit. However, I'm not sure why she said aquatic edition. In the confessional, it seems that she has chosen this descriptor because she's using a blue fabric, and that makes the look aquatic, I guess. Like, the only thing that read aquatic to me on this look were the random starfish on her back, but the starfish really, to me at least, have nothing to do with who Plain Jane is as a character or the rest of the look. Because as she acknowledged, this was way more giving some kind of Cinderella on ice type of fantasy. And with some slight modifications and maybe a little flight attendant cap, could have been translated into a better concept for her brand that maybe could have been something like overseas edition. Because, you know, Plain Jane, flight attendant or pilot, whatever, playing into all that. But slightly confusing branding aside, I think the execution of the design of this garment was one of the best tonight. And of the same blue fabric looks, this is absolutely 100% the best of those. Plus, tying back into the branding, this is immediately a recognizable silhouette for Miss Plain Jane. And I love how she really went the extra mile here with that pleated tulle skirt and the train coming out the back. She got a really great eye for design, and overall, this is absolutely hot. In other Plain news though, we do hear from her this episode she'll be turning a new, more congenial leaf. Something she decides to do after a conversation with Sapphira, who tells her basically that she's coming off wrong and doesn't need to read a bitch down at every single opportunity she gets. We also hear from her that she doesn't really intend to come off so blunt and harsh, and she explains the Russian culture she grew up with is one largely lacking pleasantries, which she expanded on Twitter, writing, growing up with a Russian dad who frowned upon any feminine form of expression instilled a fear with me I carry to this day. But bitch, it just makes seeing myself as a beautiful woman on TV that much more rewarding. So all things considered, maybe we'll see a little less turbulence going forward. That is, unless mandatory meeting finds her way back into that workroom, because where we are, no sparks are gonna fly if that happens. And next up, it's Nymphia Wind, who, girl, Miss Nymphia. Listen, she could possibly be the most talented queen in all of Drag Race history, like just counting her raw number of skills and abilities. It does not matter what the challenge is, she has been there, done that. And this week, after they hear the challenge will be to make their very own dolls, we hear her say this should be easy because she collects and customizes her own dolls. On the runway this week, she is giving a spring banana yellow carpet edition doll. And I'm not sure what a spring banana or a yellow carpet are, but Nymphia tells us that her doll is fun, dumb, and full of potassium yum, and that her doll comes with bananas, milk, and cream to make your very own banana smoothie. So let's all be yellow. I enjoyed her diving deeper into the yellow banana branding that she really has been hitting us over the head with so far. But I'm a little nervous it could translate as one note if we see too many more challenges where she has to talk about bananas. I guess only time can tell, but the other critique I have for this presentation overall is there's a slight mismatch for me going on between this really elegant gown and this sort of dumb H-word character she's doing. Like, for everything she's saying, I expected something a little campier, like her entrance look with the giant hair and all the sunglasses and, you know, the trench coat with bananas, stuff like that. But concerning the design of what she's created, I think the base gown in that pale yellow color is really absolutely gorgeous. But I wonder if she had a little too much time and talent on her hands, because the bow feels almost like an afterthought. It's not quite holding on properly to the rest of the gown, and we see it really pulling down and stretching the middle part of the fabric in her waist. And I don't know if she ran out of yellow fabric, but I wasn't loving the lavender on top of all this yellow. I think it's just a little too much contrast, because if you look at the way she actually dressed the doll with yellow on yellow, it looks flawless. And the other issue for me was that neon yellow hair just feeling so mismatched with all those soft pastels. But overall, this was really well done, absolutely. And next up, Morphine, who's giving us Miami Bimbo edition doll. And she says she is gorgeous with a hint of stunning and splash of why am I here? She's got gray shoes, hair, and a suspiciously long pinky nail. If you know, you know, I guess, but I can't explain that joke. And she also does this little gag where she says, I've got a beautiful smile, and then shows a missing tooth. And I do know the character of this real life woman that she's parodying here. And so in my mind, she was successful at branding something, but I'm not totally sure it resonated with how I, as a viewer, think of Morphine in my head. I think since she's so well known for her cosmetic ability, she could have very easily gone with like makeup artist doll or MUA edition. And concerning the design of her garments, this look is clearly inspired by that iconic Versace J.Lo dress with all the green florals, the very same one we have seen on Drag Race like, I don't know, 7 times. I think the bottom part was well executed. The panty line is good. The little sleeve train cape thing happening is nice. But waist up, it is really just a mess to me. I think it's awkward how she has this scarf around her neck, creating a rectangle here on her chest. And the way all this fabric is sitting in these very straight strips, it just feels strange. And I think obvious that she isn't really wearing any padding or shape up here. But I would give this like a warming up. And next up, Queen of Flips Edition doll, my Iman LePaige, who tells us that her doll is fun, shy, outgoing, and energetic. Shy, outgoing, and energetic. Like, what a queen of having a multifaceted personality. And also note, shy, she admits to, but not timid. Cut to RuPaul telling her that she's timid. And yes, she is the only doll that can do countless backflips. And I think hearing and seeing all this, it's clear that she knows her brand is performing and flipping, but visually there is nothing connecting the dots between the doll idea and her being the queen of flips. And honestly, it's not like she even really needed to do flips during the runway presentation. Like, that would have been nice, yes. But I think having a better visual for this idea of flipping being something like Olympics inspired, gymnast inspired, sports inspired, would have just made a lot more sense for the doll. So I do think she missed the mark on branding, and concerning the design of the outfit she has created, the fit and construction of everything isn't all that bad. I don't even think this would be in the bottom for just a raw design challenge. It just is really confusing here though. Like, that tie-dye pastel color combo is, to me, it's not for me. I think it looks visually assaulting, especially with the way she has paired it with that copper hair. Like, that is a wild color combo. And as the judges pointed out, she's got this giant cape on, featured as a main part of the outfit that she hasn't lined or hemmed. So yeah, it's gonna be a rot for me. And next up, we've got Megami giving us Native New Yorker edition doll. She's wearing blue and orange, the state colors of New York, something I wouldn't have known unless she told me, and says she's good at hailing cabs, and you can always find her riding that D train. And honestly, at first, I was kind of rolling my eyes at this because queens from New York really truly cannot go a single day on RuPaul's Drag Race without saying that they're from New York. But at the same time, all the New York queens constantly doing that makes a lot of sense for her as a New York queen to do this. So I guess this is indeed very on brand for her. I was just a little confused why she didn't do something more like Comic-Con edition or geeky edition, nerdy, something related to like the video game or fantasy world, you know, considering her name and interests. I was though really glad to see her bring these props onto the runway because I feel every doll you see that is highly stylized is going to be carrying some kind of prop in relation to the thing they're branded as. And here she's got coffee, a little Statue of Liberty tiara, and a manila folder, a clipboard, a piece of paper. She loves pieces of paper with words on them. I don't know what that is, but it's rhinestone and it says forget about it. And concerning the actual garment she created, the sequin fabric was a really great choice. The way it moves and the lights is really beautiful and does stand out, even though this is 50 Shades of Blue tonight on the runway. I'm kind of giving Yassified Statue of Liberty hosting the Hunger Games or something, and I would give this look a hot. And next up, beep beep, it's Geneva Karr, who in the challenge is giving us the Daintiest Doll in Texas edition doll. Doll. This was mostly confusing. In the vocals of her presentation, she's saying her doll speaks good English and Spanish, bilingue, and is known for her size 14 pumps and messed up ponytail. And her quirks are that she's always smiling when boys flirt. And then she ends all that with an inspirational message, I suppose, to spread butter on your bread, not your legs. Whatever that means. And really, there is not anything cohesive here in the branding department. Like, she's basically said her brand is being small in a state where everything is big. And she's completely left out some of her catchphrases like La Diva Mas Latina and the thing about clearing customs. And I don't think if my life were on the line that I could guess what in the hell this was supposed to be based on the visual presentation. Because not only is there no concept, but the design for what's happening is bad. I will say the collar is interesting and probably the best part about the look, but the crazy white sequins looking like scales on her arms and legs. And then she did that thing again where she put blue stretch fabric in the middle of her outfit instead of like making a cohesive look. And that's baffling because she didn't get great critiques on that either. This is a rock. And next up, wake up babe, it's Dawn, who's giving us Galactic Empress Edition doll. And Dawn says her doll is known for intergalactic domination, sincere introspection, and a 22-inch waist. Her quirky qualities include everything. She's insane, but she's gorgeous. And honestly, I think we all need to give her a resounding props to ya mama for this look. She was one of the only people to create a highly stylized and immediately recognizable character that makes sense for her brand. I think this look was particularly fun to see after last week's challenge, where in the verse for RuPaul's Star Baby, she's saying, "From the stars laying bars, didn't you know there's life on Mars? Galaxy, fantasy, turning looks, setting free." She connected the dots. But not only was the actual branding great, the design of what she's created is really fresh feeling for RuPaul's Drag Race design challenges. Like, she's giving me Mugler Bionic Woman meets that Galactic Empress. And I love how she completely transformed her doll's makeup and did those extra long, crazy lashes, which helps compensate, I think, for a lack of wig. And like, can we just talk about the gorgeous billowing pleated silver skirt and how sense she is in that deep blue fabric in the middle? It's regal, it's pretty. However, I think it would only be fair to point out that it appears some of the fabric, especially on the head wrap and at the hem of her dress, looks to be a little unfinished. Maybe she ran out of time, but this look is absolutely intergalactically hot. And finally, we have Simply Q, who's giving us Fantasy Edition doll, the only doll with an extra box for all of her clothes, and even comes with fairy dust, which is glitter that she throws all over the runway. Girl, Miss Siri trying to get in this video. What actually happened was this little gremlin, she loves to go turn on my HomePods. Like literally, it just perches right on top of them, turns them on. She also says her doll doesn't dance too good, but moves a lot, and people like that. And leaves us with an inspirational message that no dream is too big. And more than anything else she did with all of this, I loved her speech. It felt very like inspirational message from Life Size, the movie with Tyra Banks. And that's how she combined a self-aware sense of humor, talking about the dancing and moving, with an overtone of believing in yourself and confidence. Like, very well done. And the visual presentation is also crazy. It's really crazy what she did in creating this look. Like, there are so many different, very structured armor-like pieces like on the top, and this really gorgeous headpiece she's created. However, I will say, just looking at this, I couldn't really say what it is. It's beautiful, absolutely, but I think it'd be a little clearer in the actual idea of fantasy. It's almost kind of giving me Galactic Empress like Dawn's was, just from a different galaxy. But yeah, Q absolutely killed this challenge, and this was absolutely hot. And for all of the greatness that she accomplished tonight, Ru does award her the win, which I'm sure felt really great for her considering the story arc she's had of being in the top, landing in the bottom, and then now finally clinching the win there. But I could have seen a very justifiable win for Dawn as well. Q and Dawn were actually tied for top 2 in my ranking list in this challenge, where I knocked off half a point on Dawn's design execution and half a point on Q's branding execution. And the bottom 2 tonight ends up being Mhi'ya, LePaige, and Geneva Karr. My personal rankings also matched up here with those 2 in the bottom, where I also scored Plasma at 4 and Morphine and Xunami close to that with 5 points each. And I did react to this lip sync as well as the best parts of this episode over on my Patreon at patreon.com/BussyQueen. That's my members only website that I would absolutely love for you to check out, because my Patreon family gets exclusive member benefits like early access to my YouTube videos and access to extra videos every single week for all the seasons of Drag Race that I'm reviewing. And you can join my Patreon and get access to those videos using the link in the description of this video. See you there. And in the lip sync, our Queen of Flips does indeed pull out all of the flips for the Janet Jackson Control song, and overall gives a really hot performance. Miss Geneva, though, tried her best, but she had to have, I think, seen the writing on the wall considering this was her 3rd time in the bottom. And for my hottest hot this week, I'm gonna give it to Dawn. But I also asked my patrons to vote on their hottest hot, and this week they've chosen Q. I also want to give an extra special shout out to Gucci Goosey, Roco Queens, Melly Lee, Ron and Tom, and Chris Fox, who've all just joined my Patreon at the hot tier. And Ashley Brungart, Childfree Mateau, Dorothy Hall, Felicia, Laura, Matthew Burns, Sexy Winnie the Pooh, Steven Topher, and Will and Tana, who are all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier at patreon.com/BussyQueen. See you later, love ya, bye.